All right, guys, welcome back. It is April 15th, and as of today, we have 57 days until we leave on June 11th. We have to leave on Sunday to be able to make the power tour on Monday, June 12th. So we still got a ton of stuff to do on this project. You guys saw in the last video, we did start to get a lot of the turbocharger components installed, the manifolds, all the front accessories, power steering pump, alternator, compressor, all that stuff, but there's still a long way to go. So today, I want to try to get the turbocharger mounted, get that all clocked and everything, figure out what we got to do for that, and then just keep plugging along, just trying to get all the mechanicals, as many of the mechanical stuff as we can. And then once that's done, then I think we should start to install the Holley harness, and maybe by next weekend, we can get this baby fired up, or at least try. All right, first of all, do not buy Dorman 419644. This thing is like 5.5 inches in diameter for this little idler pulley, and it was literally hitting that pulley. So this should be the correct part. This is a Dayco 89014, so got that bolted on. Need to tighten it down. Now, yesterday I started to do a little bit of kind of preemptive work on this turbo to get it all kind of clocked in. So basically what I ended up finding out is, so this is the line that I've got for the 10AN return line, oil return line. And if you look, right, see how farther it goes down here? So when I was mocking it up, I freaking realized that the oil line was hitting on the frame rail here. So I was like, Jesus, dude. So it goes back to having the 1 1/4 inch drop mounts, and that's now causing interference there too. So I ended up, taking my cutoff wheel. We made some notches. I laid this down just like we did on here, threw some paint on it. Now I need to just put a little bit of tape on it. And then hopefully now this is going to give us the clearance we need for that oil line to be able to run down. So, and if it doesn't, the other option is we can clock the oil cartridge a little bit more of an angle, but you really want to have those oil cartridges kind of straight up and down as much as possible. And it's already got a little bit of an angle to it, so I don't want to have to do it, but we're going to see. We'll have to get that all going, and let's see if it works. All right, so even with this folded down, we're still hitting. I did play around with either like a 90-degree fitting, and then this is the 45-degree fitting. The 90 doesn't help it, and I don't like the idea of having a 90 because it's, a little bit harder for the flow and stuff. So I'd rather keep the 45, and if we need to, like I said, we could clock this a little bit more, but what I'm going to try right now is I'm just going to try to push this metal piece down a little farther. So there's still some room under here, maybe 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. So if this is pushed down a little more, that might give us the clearance we need. So when I was just pulling it down with my pliers, the pliers were hitting the brake line, right? So it wouldn't let me do it. So I'm just going to take something here and just kind of drive it down another 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, and then hopefully that will give us the clearance we need. All right, so I just have the turbo kind of sitting in place. I just have a couple bolts holding it in place, but so this is a 45-degree fitting. Now, it's not touching, it does have clearance right here, but what I'm not super happy with is you can see how this is not even close to being perpendicular, right? So it would probably work okay. Oil's feeding in, that's pressurized, and then it just kind of gravity drains down. It might be all right, but I think we can do a little bit better. So I just went on to Amazon, and I ordered some 90-degree fittings, or I'm sorry, 45-degree fittings that are a lot sharper. So this one's kind of, it's got a long bend to it. So the ones I ordered were sharper. I think I also ordered a 90-degree sharp bend too, just to be safe. We'll kind of see. So I think that once we put those on, then that'll allow us to hopefully have this thing straight up and down like it's supposed to be, and then we won't run into any issues. I also think this hose is a bit too long. I'm not really happy with it, so I'll probably end up cutting it down. We'll have to modify the hose, but we'll do that later. I think the parts, they are coming same day, but we won't have them until tonight. So I guess we'll have to wait on the turbo. So maybe next we'll start to mess around with some of the air conditioning hoses. All right, so the next thing I started looking at here was this one air conditioning line that we knew was going to be an issue. If you remember this line right here, this guy, I just got sitting here right now, but it was originally run kind of right along here on the rail, and then it kind of snuck down a little bit and then goes right here, right? So the cool part, I was really worried about this, but it looks like we got plenty of clearance and room to run it underneath the manifold right here, and it doesn't really contact, whoops, it fell out, but looks like we got room. So basically we'll take it, we'll put a bunch of this, protective heat crap all over it. Hopefully that'll help enough, but so that's good. That was the main one I was really concerned about. Then I think this top line basically curves this way, so that should be fine. And then we've just got the lines back here for the compressor that kind of bolt on. Yeah, they bolt on there. And then I think that snakes around that way. So do maybe need to mock that up. The only thing I'm considering that may be an issue is I want to have my fuel pressure regulator right here. So we do need to see where the heck that line's going to run, and is it going to try to intersect where the fuel pressure regulator is? If it is, we might have to rethink putting it in that location. All right, so I grabbed the air conditioning lines, and if you're not super familiar, this dude just goes, this big ugly thing just connects right to the back of the AC compressor. You got the line going this way. This line looks like it's going to be a non-issue. It looks like it clears the coil packs, and then it looks like it can just ride up here on top where the fuel pressure regulator, it's down there a little farther. So that should be totally fine. It's out of the way of heat, not a big concern. And then it goes over here into the evap canister. That's fine. The other issue we have is this line. This is like the weirdest freaking line. I don't know why they got it bent like this, but anyway, this is going to end up, the turbo is just sitting there, but once you clock and get the turbo, bolted, it is kind of coming into contact with this line. So, don't know if that's also to do with the stupid thing being 1.25 inches lower, probably, but I think to fix it, first of all, I kind of shoved it in place. It'll work as is, but the turbo would be contacting this, and due to vibration, I don't like that long term. So I think what we need to do is see if we can get a little more of a bend in here. So right here at this radius, if we can bend that a little more, we probably wouldn't even need to bend that, but that would just get it away a little more, and we got clearance, between here to bend it a bit more. So if we can get that bent, that should give us room. As long as we got 1/8 of an inch clearance, that should be just fine. The good news is, looks like all this stuff should work. Once we get our line later today, we can get this thing going, get turbo on, and then we just gotta order some tubing and stuff. The turbo actually is like this way. This is a 2.5 inch outlet to a 4-inch inlet. Now the piping and stuff that I have from On3, this is a 2.5 inch pipe, so it matches the outlet of the turbo, but it's kind of small. I think to have just a 2.5, rolling into the 4. So also I'm going to end up selling this whole kind of intercooler kit setup. So I think what I'm going to do is actually order a 3-inch pipe, and that's going to make it easier for me as well to find a 2.5 inch to 3-inch adapter right out of the turbo. And then what I'm thinking is we might have like a 45 elbow, and then that should be able to snake, and then we do a 4-inch to 3-inch 90-degree silicone reducer, and then that should get us in there. And then we have our blow-off valve, somewhere wherever there's room. And that's it. So that should make it pretty simple for that. All right, so I busted out the evap canister or whatever, so I went and found the bracket, and it's just held on with 2 10mm bolts. I put that back on. Actually blasted this thing into place, so I got that all connected, tightened this all down, put our AC connector back on. There was also a bracket right here for the original big harness connector thing that we're not using anymore, so I got that bracket out of there. I'll probably pull these things out later if we don't need them, but we may need them, so we'll see. So maybe next we'll try to get a bend in this thing. Let's see if that'll help it out. And then I need to go to the parts store. Some of the bolts I bought for the turbo were too long. I need shorter bolts. I need a hold down bolt for the dual sync, and I need a pulley installer for this power steering pump, because once we get that on, then I'm going to take a measurement and kind of find out what we need for a belt. I think we might need like a 92.5 inch belt since we don't have the smog pump, but I've also got underdrive pulleys, so I don't know if that changed anything. So I'm just going to run a string on it, kind of make sure, and then we can get a belt. And then, man, we're making some good progress, dude. I mean, I also found my brackets for the radiator, so we could probably start sticking that thing on. I just don't want to put it on too soon, and you know, I wanted to kind of make sure all this stuff's going to work so we don't run into any issues. I definitely want to get the turbo and the oil line on because the radiator probably will be in the way for that. But let me show you guys what I got for a radiator. This is just an aftermarket aluminum 4-core radiator, so she's definitely a bad, thick lady. A couple aftermarket electric fans, then it's got a built-in shroud. Now, for SM95s, a lot of guys will say the stock fan it flows a ton of CFM. It's more than adequate, which is definitely true. But in my case, I wanted to kind of give this a shot and see if it works. These are a little bit slimmer and thinner and better looking, in my opinion, than the big, ugly plastic stock fan. So I'm going to give this a shot. If anything happens, you know, if it ends up overheating, then we can always switch to back to an SN95 fan later down the road. But hopefully that won't be the issue. All right, so on the air conditioning, it looks like we ran into another little snafu that we got to overcome. So what I ended up finding out is where like the little, I don't know what the heck these are, these little condenser looking things that plug in the back of there, there's a bolt right there, and it's a really long bolt. And the problem is you can't get the bolt started because of the manifold. So I was like, oh crap, man, what am I going to do? So I think the easiest way, since we've already got, you know, power steering pump bolted in, this thing bolted in, there's 3 bolts that hold this bracket. I'm going to take off 2 of the bolts, loosen the one. I can rock this up. All I need to do is just rock it up, maybe 1/8 of an inch or something, just to get that bolt started. And once the bolt goes in, it'll be fine. So so it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but we can go ahead, I think, now, and I can go do that, get that started, and then we can start to actually connect the rest of the air conditioning system. Except for the one line by the turbo, but my part that I need for the turbo, the 90-degree oil fitting, should be here literally in just a few minutes. So if we can get this all knocked out, once turbo comes, we'll finish all that, and yeah, should be awesome. Yeah, so look at how long this stupid bolt is, but it's got to be that long to be able to make it over all this crap. So all right, let's get to getting this thing unbolted, baby. All right, so as I was starting to kind of put this thing in and play with it, I realized that this wouldn't even go all the way in. And I think it's just because, like I said, that compressor needs to be rotated, and then once this goes on all the way, there'll be clearance for it, because we did mock this up, and we had this all installed and stuff, and it worked, but we must have had to put this on first before we had, you know, done it all. So anyway, the issue I'm running into now, though, is this is kind of coming in contact with the manifold. So if I ever take this thing off, you know, I'd like to be able to, well, I was going to say I'd probably still have to rotate it to get that bolt out. But anyway, so I think I'm just going to take my grinder real quick. I've already got it out. So I'm just going to grind, and we're just kind of, you know, kind of bevel some of this edge off here, and then hopefully that'll give us some more clearance. So I'm just going to do that real quick, and then we'll stick it back on, move the whole bracket, all that crap. All right, so the little bit of clearancing that we did right on this edge here, you can't even see it, but it's what would be touching this manifold. A little bit of clearancing, boom. So it went right in. So now we're ready to put in our bolt. But like I said, the issue, so if you want to drop this thing. Okay, come on. Dang, I can't even get it to go the way it should go. Anyway, it's just too long. So you can see what happens is the part of the head here hits the manifold, and you can't get it started. Like, it starts to start, but it's starting to cross thread. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead. So again, we got our 3 bolts somewhere. So we're going to just undo 2, loosen the 1, and then we can just rotate it, get our bolt started, tighten it up, and then put everything back. And then we can start to connect this dude into the condenser, and then this thing can get connected too. But I'm going to wait for the turbo, which I'm still waiting for Amazon, but it should be here any freaking minute. We just started having some crazy rain, so that might be slowing those guys down. All right, there she is, all bolted on. So got plenty of room right there. It's cool. But I'm still going to go through, I think a lot of this stuff I'm going to cover with like heat protection tubing. I mean, this stuff's not such a big deal, but I mean, if you look down here, you know, whatever these stupid things are, I mean, they're right by the manifolds, right? They're going to be getting hot, man. And the air conditioning compressor itself, the way this kit's designed, I mean, it is like just basically right there touching the manifold. So longevity wise, not sure how that's going to work out, right? But it is what it is. This is the only kit I know of for a 94, 95 Mustang that works with air conditioning, right? Unless you're making it yourself. And I'm sure, you know, these guys designed it the best they could, right? There's not a lot of room. Look at this. I mean, it is a mess with all these freaking hoses and all this crap, man. So we'll see how this works. Maybe eventually I'll get sick of this and I'll be like, you know what, screw it. Let's just get rid of the air conditioning. And then, man, this whole engine bay would just look beautiful without all this extra garbage, right? Because if I got rid of AC, I would probably just get rid of power steering too. So we could just eliminate this whole freaking bracket over here, right? Just have an alternator bracket and that's it. All right, let's keep on moving. So now that this is plugged in, let's go ahead and get this plugged in too. Looks like it's gonna live comfortably. Look at that, tucks right behind the fuel pressure regulator. That's freaking beautiful. So yeah, get that plugged in and keep rocking. All right, so Amazon just showed up a few minutes ago, so now we got our part we need, hopefully for the turbo, so we can mess with that in a second. But we've got this thing plugged in, and we've got this thing, I've just got it not totally plugged in, just kind of sitting there, I think, hopefully. Anyway, we'll see. But, so, let's mess with the turbo and figure out what we got going on. So, remember the issue we were having is our 45-degree fittings. So this is one of the new ones I got. And I got some other 45-degree fitting. Oh, this guy too. But it doesn't matter. The 45 is just, it's not going to work unless we have the turbo clocked at like a pretty hard angle. So I'm hoping, this is what I was waiting on. This just came in the mail. So this should give us, yeah, so that's going to give us some more clearance. Now, I kind of hate the idea of having a 90-degree right off the freaking drain of the turbo because you want this thing to gravity drain as easily as possible. But this boy is a nice, like, fat, you know, it keeps that 10 AN size throughout, right? So hopefully this works, but at least what I'm hoping is this is going to allow me to have it straight up and down like it's supposed to be. And then we're going to see if we need to modify this hose, make it shorter, whatever. But, all right, let's go see if we can get this thing bolted on now. All right, let's see what this looks like with our 90. Dude, okay. So close. Like, it's clearanced right now, but don't know if it's going to work once the actual hose is on there. Shoot, man. Yeah, because this is pretty much straight up. That's what we want. I mean, I can angle it a bit. Okay, let's get the hose on it and see. All right, here's kind of what I'm rolling with. So I'm using two fittings. So we got the 90, and then I've got this other kind of fat boy 45. And I think that might work because otherwise, I think the hose might be causing an issue. And then this kind of makes it nice where I can more easily detach this thing from the turbo with it mounted and everything. So I'm going to try to just actually mock this thing up, put the bolts in, put the gasket on, see how it all looks. All right, so now that we got this turbo all mocked up here with the oil line, I can see that there is still an issue. We still have barely any problem, but we do have, it looks like maybe a little bit of a clearance issue where this oil line or the fitting is going to hit that metal, the piece of metal that we bent on that rail. So I'm thinking what we need to do is go ahead and we're going to cut off the piece of metal, and then that should give us enough room to get the stupid oil line all put in place. All right, so I wanted to get a little bit more clearance on this stupid oil drain, so I did end up cutting off this piece. This is what we did the other day where we had folded this over, but I wanted to gain that extra freaking 1/8 of an inch or whatever, right? So I went and cut it off. So we're gonna throw some paint on it, and then we'll put some gold stuff over top of it so it all matches. Then we can go ahead and finally put the turbo back on. Also, I ended up cutting that line, but it's still too long, so I need to recut that a little bit shorter, and then we should be good to go for this stupid turbo. All right, let me see. Let me catch you guys up because I've just been kind of screwing around. So I got the battery bolts bolted down for that. Not a big deal. I threw some protective stuff on this thing only because, not because of heat, but just because I was worried about it scuffing up the alternator. And then I've got the turbo on. I've still got to bolt it, finish bolting it on. But I've got it tightened. It's clocked. Both sides are clocked. This may be able to go up a little more, but I don't want to go too crazy because I'm not sure about hood clearance right here, but I think that this would still work where we can kind of 45 off here and then 90 right into the 4-inch throttle body. So I think that'll work. So, I also plugged in the AC line, so that works. I mean, it's kind of touching right there, but that's why I think too, if we can move this up, that'll give us another, 1/8 inch of clearance, 1/4 inch clearance. So I think there's even room maybe for my filter and stuff. So that's going to be cool. So let's finish getting this thing bolted on, and then I've still got to cut the stupid oil line one more time, get the oil line done, and then we can put on the lower AC line, and then the AC will be donezo. All right, guys, I am getting ready to call it a freaking day. I am just whipped. I don't even know what time it is. It's probably 4 or 5 o'clock, and I've been out here since like 7 a.m., almost just nonstop, just kind of working on stuff, and it's all the little stuff that just takes so freaking long. So let's kind of recap. So we ended up getting the turbocharger is fully bolted on. Oil lines ran for feed and return. I even put some heat wrap stuff on all that stuff. The air conditioning system, all these lines are run. Hopefully it doesn't leak. So that's all good to go. Got our fuel system done. That was in the last video you guys saw, but that was actually earlier today. So we did a lot of work. But yeah, so I think next, mechanically, we need to probably get the radiator in. But I need to wire up some new connectors for the radiator, and those connectors, they don't arrive till Tuesday. Today's Sunday. So I'm not sure. I'm thinking I'll probably wait to put the radiator in until I do the connectors, just because it's easier to, wire those all on outside the car, especially now that we've got everything else in place, right? There's not a lot of room. All right, guys, we are going to call this one a wrap. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love seeing this thing come together. I cannot wait to keep on rocking and rolling, and hopefully we're going to be getting this thing started up here for the first time very soon. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll catch you guys on the next one.